A custom role is a role that you can create by assigning specific permissions of your choice. Let's look at how to create a custom role in Contentstack. In your stack, go to Settings and then Roles. Click the New Role button on the right-hand side. On the form that appears, enter a relevant name and description for the role. Then, under Permissions, define the permission that you want to assign to the role. You can set permissions for entries as well as for assets. Let's go through each of these. Under Entries, you can set permissions on all entries or on specific entries. Setting a rule for all entries means whether or not you want this role to access all entries of one or more content types. Let's add a rule to understand this well. Click on Add Rules and then select Permissions. Let's say Read. Then, choose if you want to assign read permissions on all content types or specific content types. If you select the second option, you will be prompted to select the content type on which you want to apply this rule. Here, you can select multiple content types. So now, we have created a rule that says this role can read all entries of only this content type. Likewise, you can add more rules for this role. Next is Specific Entries. This option lets you set permissions on specific entries of content types. Click on Add Rule, select a relevant permission, say Update. Then, click on Select Content Type and choose a content type for this rule. Note that you cannot select multiple content types. Once done, click Select Entries. Here, select the entries on which you want to set the role. As you can see, this rule states that the role can update only specific entries of this content type. You can add more such rules for other content types. Next are Exceptions. Exceptions help you define what this role cannot do. If you want to restrict the role from accessing anything, you need to add an exception. Let's see how this works. Click on Add Exception and then add a rule for all entries. Here, select the permission that you do not want to assign to this role, for example, Update, and then select the content type. So, we have added an exception that says that this role cannot update entries of this specific content type. Likewise, you can add exceptions for specific entries. Then, there is another option called Specific Fields. Under this option, you can define what this role cannot do on a specific field of a content type, such as cannot read a specific field while reading an entry or cannot update a field while creating an entry. Let's try to add an exception for this. Click on Add Rule and then select a permission, for example, Update. Then, select a content type and finally select the field that you do not want this role to update. That's about exception. You can then add similar permissions and exceptions for assets as well. Next, select the environment to which this role should have publishing rights, and then select the language that this role can access. Once done, save this role. With this, you have created a custom role. You can now assign this role to any users of the stack. Thanks for watching this video.